Hi everyone, today is March 21st, 2020, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger, and this week the podcast will cover basically what's been going on in Duel Links, which isn't a ton, frankly. Start off with talking about some esports, some of the new tournaments, some of the new decks that are going in the meta right now. It's kind of hard to know what the meta is right now, but we're in between some of those nerfs on the ladder, but they'll all go through actively by the end of the month. But we're in the middle right now. Official rule changes. Talk about 4 rule changes happening to the game, and I think this affects the TCG as well. But it's they're going to be active for Duel Links next month, I believe. So some upcoming rule changes. Doug Dimmaduel is back, and he has a Dragunity deck to help you through the Raid Duel. So that segues into Rex Goodwin Raid Duels. So 2 new cards from there and a new duel skill we'll discuss. Some other cards we're also getting a 3rd copy of. If you listen to this podcast, please search the Duel Assessment Podcast. That's how you find it. Subscribe anywhere you like it. And listen and leave any comments. Tell your friends, anyone who plays the game. Okay, so I guess I'll begin with my not my week in the Duel World, but my World Week update. And, we're in our whatever week this is of coronavirus. And I think this is the week where things really became real. Last week I discussed where there was a guy who supposedly was tested for the virus, and he actually came out negative. So I came out of my own home semi-quarantine, but this was the week where things got really bad, and I'm actually working from home now. I joined that boat kind of late, but 3 out of 5 days last week I worked from home, and I think that's the thing moving forward. They're shutting down certain areas. I know New York City became the hotspot as of yesterday. It was always, you knew it was going to be the hotspot, but I think we have a third of all cases in the country now with all the testing that's been done. So even going outside will be a bit tough now. I'm still going outside. There's no moratorium yet on that, but I'm trying to avoid high traffic areas. Going outside if I need to go buy stuff, I guess, and if I go running or something, I don't know. My time outside will be quite limited, and I'm doing a lot of work from home, and some people use an excuse, like working from home as an excuse to not do stuff. I've actually been doing stuff nonstop, so I actually haven't been playing a ton of Duel Links as a result. But I just want to make this podcast an escape for the next. It's not gonna cover an hour with the content we have today, but an escape from the world for a bit, and that's what art and games and any book or whatever you do is. It's an escape from the world right now, and it's always been that, but we need it more than ever. At the same time, you must know what's going on, but don't listen to the news nonstop. It'll just lose your mind at that point. So take this as a time to get away from it all and enjoy Duel Links. So back to my week in the Duel World. Again, not much has been going on. Konami hasn't given us enough stuff when we need it. That nothing's been adjusted. I guess they set their schedule, and that's what it is. But I have 2 copies of Dark Salvo from the Raid Duels, and this is a card that I think people were trying to farm it forever, and it just never dropped, and that was done on purpose. And it started dropping from the level 2000s or something, and then people started getting copies of the card. I'm still looking for my 3rd copy so I could stop playing this event for once. Not much more to say. They've made it a lot easier though. When you're joining up in a raid, you get an assist. You get like 25 gems a day. It's not much, but it's better than nothing. And joining an assist is pretty easy. It doesn't cost any of the currency, so that's great. And then the turbo duels themselves, you can make your monsters hit pretty hard, and you could score over. I don't want to say 200,000, but you could get close, like 150,000 if you hit them enough. So yeah, it's a lot easier now. In ranked duels, I've been pushing Legend 2, but I'm still in Legend 1. I really have no motivation to play. Um, and then I'll go into something later, but I got my third copy of Charge of the Light Brigade, which completes the Lightsworn package. I just need one more of the Judgment Dragon, to actually play a Lightsworn deck, and Lightsworns aren't even meta right now. They're just an engine. So I have my three copies of Charge. I have my Raidens. I think that's all there is to the package. Um, yeah, I haven't been playing much Duel Links because I bought Borderlands 3 for Steam. It finally came out. It's hard to know what's coming out. Final Fantasy is going to come out eventually. Final Fantasy 7 Remake, I mean. But I'm not going to play that. But Borderlands 3 came out. I've been playing that a little bit every day. I'm not going crazy with games given my imprisonment at home. So let's move on to Esports Battle Phase 41. This was last week's Battle Phase. They actually did one last night, but I didn't go through the decks. So let's talk about the first one. This one happened on the 17th, number 41. First place Zaid King. He was the number one on the last Kaiba Cup. No mortal can resist Lightsworn Dark Lord. So this runs a little package. Not even the Raiden package. It's 1 Lila, 3 Charge of the Light Brigade. That's it. Oh, there's also a Raiden. 1 Lila, 1 Raiden, 3 Charge. And then the rest of it is Dark Lords. 2 Desires, 1 Ixchel, 2 Nastin, 1 Tetlapakia, 3 Amdusk, 1 Ukobak, 3 Banishment, 1 Dark Lord Contact, 1 Sanctified Dark Lord. There's an interesting 1-1 split, Ixchel and Dark Lord Contact. I think this is the first deck I've seen with just 1 Dark Lord Contact. So really, the Lightsworn engine has helped it out tremendously. I might try this deck. I have enough for the engine now with my third charge. I could conceivably play this deck. I don't know. I don't think I have 3 banishment. That could be my limiting reagent here. Definitely the Ixchel saved me. I don't think I bought Lords of Shining a ton. The nerf on Ixchel, I mean. Second place Skill Shot, level Og. Shiranui. So Shiranui are using level Og with the limit to the Shiranui Spectral Sword. The tuners are just they don't come out as often, so it makes sense to increase their level so they could skip the level 6 Synchro Summons and move straight to the 8 and 10s. It's pretty much the goal of level Og. This is a typical 20 card deck. We're going to see some other Shiranui decks, but what it is 2 Solitaires, 3 Squires, 3 Spirit Master, 1 Spectral Sword Shade, 2 Spectral Swords, 3 Cosmic, 1 Gold Sarcophagus, 2 Mistaken Rest, 3 Floodgates. Third place Mordecai, Baggy Sleeves, Lightsworn Monarchs. So first Monarch deck we've seen in quite a bit of time. That is... And Baggy Sleeves, of course, is if you lose your level 5 monster in battle, you draw 2 cards in the next battle phase. 2 Erebus, the Underworld Monarch. 1 Frostblast of the Monarchs. 3 First Monarch, and 3 the Prime Monarch. This deck's actually going to get even better after the rule changes. I'll explain why, but in terms of the Lightsworn package, 3 Raidens, 3 Luminas, 3 Charge of the Light Brigade, 2 Solar Recharge. A lot of Lightsworns to help dispose of cards. 2 Plague Spreader Zombies, 2 Kite Roids, and a Bacon Saver. 25 card deck. Third place, Elite. No mortal can resist Dark Magician. This is a very common deck you'll see win tournaments. Dark Magician decks. This one does not have a Synchro component to it, nor does it have a Banish component to it. So what it is, just 1 Magician of Dark Illusion, 3 Rods, 3 Dark Magicians, 1 Cosmic, 3 Circles, 1 Illusion Magic, 1 Eye of Timaeus, 3 Navigations, 2 Canadia, 2 Treacherous Trap Hole. And this one just, does Dark Magician stuff, banishes stuff, negates spells, get Dark Cavalry, and you'll win, pretty much. Duel Links Meta Weekly number 116. First place, Black Jesus, Alternative Evolution, Blue Eyes. So, this deck is notable. Black Jesus does some pretty cool stuff with his decks. 2 copies of Super Team Buddy Force Unite. So this card lets you special summon a monster from your hand or graveyard with the same type as the monster but different name. So you only got 2 types. You got 2 spellcasters, which is Maiden and Sage, and then the rest are dragons. You've got your White Stone of Ancients, Dragon Spirit of White, Blue Eyes, Alternative Blue Eyes. You've got the Synchro Blue Eyes, so there's quite a bit. Even Michael the Arc Lightsworn is a dragon, so you could make Michael and then turn it into a Blue Eyes or something. You flip it over, so pretty cool. Raigeki Break, 3 copies of this card. I don't think anyone really saw this card coming as being as good as it is, but with the meta right now, utilizing graveyards, Sealed Tombs getting nerfed, Raigeki Break is pretty good for decks that like stuff in the graveyard. Second place, Francisco Cristrons, Transcendent Crystal Cristrons, same deck. This deck just doesn't really move. You change the back row a little bit, but otherwise, very viable tournament deck. Of course, they rank it as tier 1, but it's a deck that you won't see a ton on the ladder. Top 4 Hobbs with Grit. Lunalights, this is a pure Lunalight deck, and it's very simple if you look at it. It's just trying to buy time to fuse into a Lunalight. So you got Grit, of course, 2 Sphere Karibos, 2 World Legacy Clash, and that's it. The rest of it is just Lunalights. 3 Martins, 2 Fox, 3 Birds, 3 Rabbits, Fusion with Cycling Plant to help tutor cards, discard to add Polymerization, 1 Polymerization, 3 Lunalight Fusions. That's all there is to it. The deck is good enough. You face it enough on the ladder, they just kill you. Monsters are untargetable. The Fox, of course, is the MVP of the deck. She turns the attack into 0 and then also protects against those target effects. That's more for protection of the Saber Dancer than the Cat Dancer has her own anti-target effects. And top 4, Demon Level Og Shiranui. A lot of control components here. 1 Mistaken Arrest. This is a card we're seeing in the deck a lot. 2 Divine Wrath. 2 Raigeki Break. 2 Wall of D. This is a deck that can take advantage of Divine Wrath and Raigeki Break. These 2 cards are pretty much equal. Divine Wrath and Raigeki Break. For decks that like disposing cards into the graveyard. Finally, the last tournament that we will discuss is Duel Links Taiwan, 2-deck format, of course. First place, Mellow 9811. No mortal can resist Dark Magician. This one has just 1 copy of Knight's End Sorcerer. This card does double your anti-opponent graveyard card and also a tuner. So we've previously saw Kaiku quite a bit, but now it's just Knight End Sorcerer. And then Cyber Style Cyber Dragons. Pretty typical. They try to find ways to lose life points easy. 3 Cosmic Cyclones, 1 Cybernetic Fusion support, and a Mirror Wall. Second place, Necrofear 9. No mortal can resist Dark Magician again. Very similar deck to the one above. They run 2 Treacherous instead of a Treacherous and an Econ. That's the only difference here. And Master of Fusion, Lunalight, Neos Lunalight. This is the more common deck you'll see on the ladder. They typically have a Neos engine into it. So 2 copies of Keeper of Dragon Magic, 180 Changer, 2 Neos Fusion, 2 copies of Elemental Hero Neos. It lets you run the 22 card deck without really losing any of the consistency you'll get from the Lunalights. Third place, E-Path. I think that means Path, I'm not really sure. Level Og Lightsworn Shiranui. Let's talk about this deck. It's spicy. 30 card deck. Reminds you of the 30 card Grass Shiranui decks before in the past. Let's talk about the Lightsworn package. 2 Raidens, 1 Lumina, 3 Charge. That's it. And then in terms of kind of like the grass stuff, there's 1 Grasslook Screener. Of course, this card has been hit to the 1 list. 2 Burgeoning Whirl Flames, 3 Needlebug Nest. Those are kind of the old school cards you saw with these 30 card decks. 3 Divine Wraths, 1 Raigeki Break. Of course, these cards are great for any graveyard deck. Even a deck like Lightsworns probably could like using Divine Wrath, now that I think about it. And then the Shiranui themselves, 3 Solitaires, 3 Squires, 2 Samurai, 2 Spirit Master, 2 Shade, 2 Spectral Swords. That's it. That's the whole deck. And the other deck is just the regular No Mortal Can Resist 20 card Shiranui deck. Not much to say about this one. The other one's a lot cooler. Finally, third place, BZ Camula, Destiny, Draw, Element Saber, Invoked. Typical 22 card deck you've seen before. All of the 3 field spells, no more Cosmic Cyclone, 2 Mirror Walls though to lose life for Destiny Draw, 2 Fiendish Chain, 3 Floodgate. You try to fill it up with as many your best trap cards pretty much. And Cyber Style, Cyber Dragon, very typical deck again. Running ways to lose life points, Cosmic Cyclones, Cybernetic Fusion support, and you seem to be running Concentrating Current now, which see the guy. Yeah, Chimera Tech Rampage, 2100 plus 1600. That's over 4000. One hit is good enough to win the game. Alright, so with the tournaments done, very minor changes to the Duel Links meta tier list. Tier 1, we still have Crystons and Element Sabers. Tier 2, we still have Black Wings, Blue Eyes, and Dark Magician. Dark Lords have been dropped from Tier 2, though. They've joined Tier 3 with Cyber Dragon, Lunalights, Shiranui, and Thunder Dragons. I think Shiranui are going to move up, probably, with the new decks we're seeing, Lightsworn Engines in them. Dark Lords fell. Lunalights could go up. Cyber Dragons could go up. And Gladiator Beasts have been moved off the tier list. Let's talk rules. So, official rule changes are coming to the game, and these are called revisions to effect resolution. There's 4 different rules, and I'll try to think of some examples without cheating. Duel Links Meta did a whole article about that, so yeah, they have content too. But I'll just try to think of some things and see what I can come up with. So the first one is called monster effects that are triggered when the monster leaves the field. And the definition of leaving the field has changed. Now, monsters getting sent back to the extra deck are not considered leaving the field, and those effects won't trigger anymore. So what it is it's as simple as it gets, right? Like, leaving the field typically means being sent to the graveyard or being banished. Now going back to the extra deck means you could get used again, probably for a play, but going to the graveyard doesn't really mean the end of it either. Monsters always come back from the graveyard, it seems, but just, yeah, that's all it is. And I think this has implications with another rule change. Like, you could think about Fortune Lady Every banishing something at the beginning of the standby phase, and then someone sends her away. That's what this effect is talking about. Rule 2 change. Activation conditions for trigger effects. Trigger effects no longer activate if a card is sent to a different location. So this is what I was talking about. I think the thing that this hits the most is something like Black Rose Dragon. Black Rose Dragon is a card you just put in many synchro extra decks. Easy level 7, your opponent sets a lot of stuff, plays a few monsters. You get a ton of value out of that Black Rose Dragon. Now, these trigger effects won't activate if the card is sent to a different location. I don't think this works if Black Rose Dragon is hit with a Floodgate. It will still blow up everything on the board, I think. This is called sending Black Rose Dragon to the graveyard with a Raigeki Break or something. Banishing Black Rose Dragon. And there's certain effects too. This also affects like Fortune Lady Every. Her banish effect will go off typically, even if you banish her, you chain you chain her banish or something, she'll still banish something. Now, all those effects get a little worse because they're no longer going to activate. So, think about banishing. Banishing gets better, obviously, with this. Cards that send cards to the graveyard get better. Cards that send cards to the deck. So, like Lightsworn Aaron hitting something in defense mode. I don't think the effects will go off anymore. So, any card that will just send a card back to the deck, back to the graveyard, to the graveyard, to the extra deck, to get banished, they all get better. So, the effects don't go off anymore. And this affects all the flip effect monsters too, I think. Cards conditions that prevent you from special summoning with other effects until the end of the turn. So special summon restrictions will now be based on how many times successful special summons are done and negated summons are not counted. So there are certain cards that say you can only like play one more monster this turn, or you can only special summon one more card this turn, or I think a good example is Red Eyes Fusion. I think they say you can't normal summon after it. You can only set. So, well, that's not a good example. I know there are certain things like you can only special summon machine synchros for the rest of the turn or something. Now anything that's negated just doesn't count anymore. So you get a second shot at it. I can't think of an example. Yeah, I can't. Well, anyways, you get the idea. Special summon restrictions are just based on successful summons, not negated ones. And negated is a tricky term. Floodgate does not negate. Like you still summon, and then they hit you with a floodgate, or they hit you with Paleozoiconadia. Those aren't really negated summons. They've just been flipped face down instead of negated. Finally, the last rule change. This one's interesting. Continuous trap cards that are treated as monsters when activated. Continuous trap monsters no longer occupy. This is my interpretation. Continuous trap monsters no longer occupy a spell or trap zone. If these monsters are flipped face down, they'll get reset into the spell or trap zone. So this is big because trap monsters always take up a slot in the spell trap zone. If you in Duel Links, there's like a cancel sign on the spell or trap zone they occupy. So this makes them a lot worse because they don't get to play extra. The player doesn't get to play extra traps when they're taking up both zones. Now, let's say you've got a full board of trap monsters and you set all your back row. Your opponent flips it down, and I think it's going to get destroyed. I think if the trap monster has nowhere to go, it's going to get destroyed. So, but overall, this is you try to leave some space. I think that's how you play them. You try to leave a zone for them to go back. But this does help trap monsters a bit in that you can play other cards. This helps the Monarchs. Like I talked about that deck with the Prime Monarch, the first Monarch. Those are all trap monsters. I don't think so I think the difference is that the Paleozoics don't count as they come back as trap monsters, but they don't occupy the spell or trap zones, and that's kind of what they're getting at. But if you flip a Paleozoiconadia face down, that means from now on you're gonna get to reuse it. I'm not sure how it works, but the real trap monsters, the continuous trap monsters, they will get reset, which means you can't activate them again until the next turn. So in a way, it's not the worst thing in the world. You get to reuse a trap monster, like the one with the huge defense, no attack, and then it destroys stuff. That one's pretty good. I don't remember called Statue of Anguish. I think it's called Statue of Anguish pattern. That card see some play. You might see some annoying Odeon decks as a result of this, but it's okay. I mean, having more deck diversity is always nice. Seeing Monarchs is nice. So this all helps in that regard. So those are the 4 official rule changes coming to the game in general and coming to Duel Links in mid-April, I believe. Talk about the UI update for a second. There's a new sword icon. Um, Previously, before, let's say you had a lot of monsters on the board, they just swing an arrow over a card, and they still have those big arrows directing attacks. But now the monster that is attacking gets a sword icon, and it's actually very noticeable. You don't notice how noticeable it is. Like it's a little icon, but it just catches your attention for a little bit, and whatever helps. I never really saw it as a problem. I know playing on your phone is a bit harder. Um, it's easier to misplay when you're playing on a smaller screen. I usually play Duel Links on my computer if I'm playing a ranked game, so I never really had the problems of missing my attacks or not knowing who is attacking. It depends if you're paying attention. I guess some games I just let it play and I lose and I'm watching something else in the background. But this definitely helps. It does catch your attention quite a bit, and yeah, that's it. So I'm going to talk about the raid duels soon. The cards we get from the raid duels, that is. But Doug Dimmaduel has returned with his casual deck of the week. And this casual deck of the week is specifically, you could play it. You could just play this deck on your own. It's a Dragunity deck, but it's meant for dealing with these raid duels. Of course, in the raid duels, you want to get your quick synchro summons on, so you can deal extra damage to Rex Goodwin. So here is Doug Dimmaduel of his deck of the week, Dragunities.
Hey there, this is Doug Dimmaduel with Doug's Casual Deck of the Week. This week, because of the whole, us being indoors for quite some time, now with this whole coronavirus case happening all around the world, got a little bit more time to play some Duel Links in the downtime, so I want to go through a deck build that I'm using in this whole Rex Goodwin event. Really the focus on getting some synchros that can clear the monsters off the board, so what better way to handle that setup through the Dragunity Knight Assalon there, the level 10 Dragon Synchro, 3300 attack, 3200 defense. So it requires one Dragunity tuner and one non-tuner monsters. You can banish one Dragunity monster from your graveyard, then target one monster your opponent controls, whether or not it's face up, doesn't matter, and banish it. If the Synchro Summon card in its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can special summon one Dragunity Synchro monster with 3000 or less attack from your extra deck. This is treated as a Synchro Summon. You can only use this effect of Dragunity Knight Assalon once per turn. So, again, the goal is to just get that on the field as quickly as possible. I use that through a step-up summon through Dragunity Knight Barca, which is the level 8 Dragon Synchro, one Dragon type tuner, one or more non-tuner Winged Beast type monsters. When this card is Synchro Summoned, you can select any number of Dragon type Dragunity monsters in your graveyard and equip them to this card. It gains 300 attack. You don't really care about the attack boost. You're using it to take either your Dragunity Phalanx or the Dragunity Kaus out of your graveyard, and then have them summon themselves onto the field to get into your level 10 play. So, I do like to run my 2 copies of Dragunity Arma Leviathan, the level 8 Dragon Monster. This is, again, a lot of these cards you can get out of the structure deck if you haven't splurged some gems into that. 2600 attack, 1200 defense. You can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard by removing from play one face-up monster. From removing from play one face-up monster you control, equipped with a Dragunity card. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can select one Dragon-type monster in your graveyard, except Leviathan, and equip it to this card. When this card is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, you can select one of the monsters that were equipped to this card when it was sent to the graveyard, and special summon that monster from the graveyard. So this is really just your quick play into level 10 if you have a monster equipped with another monster. I do run my 2 copies of Dragunity Kaus. It's the new level 2 UR Dragon Tuner, 1000 attack, 200 defense. This card cannot be used as synchro material except for Dragunity monsters. This card on the field can be treated as a level 4 monster when used for a synchro summon. If this card is currently equipped to a monster, you can special summon this card. So, really, really good. This pairs well with Dragunity Senatus. I like to run 3 copies of this in the deck. Level 4, Winged Beast, 1800 attack, 600 defense. You can discard 1 Dragunity card, equip 1 Dragon-type Dragunity tuner from your deck to this card. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Dragon-type monsters. It's not a problem with this deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. So that's really what you're using it for. It's just a quick gateway into your synchro plays. I also want to run my 3 copies of Dragunity Ducks, the level 4 Winged Beast. Whenever this card is normal summoned, you can select a level 3 or lower dragon type Dragunity monster in your graveyard and equip it to this card. So you want to get your Dragunity Phalanx or the Dragunity Chaos out of the graveyard to either get into a level 6 synchro play, like for your Dragunity Knight Variana, the level 6 Dragon Synchro, 1900 attack, 1200 defense, 1 Dragon type tuner, 1 or more non-tuner Winged Beast type monsters. When this card is synchro summoned, you can target 1 level 3 or lower Dragon type Dragunity monster in your graveyard and equip that target to this card. Once per turn, you can send 1 equipped card to the graveyard and double this card's attack. May come in clutch, but not for the raid duels. You rather just want to get right into your level 10 Ascalon Dragunity synchro play. So, what are the spells and traps that I run? I just run 3 copies of Cards of Consonance, discard 1 Dragon-type monster tuner with 1000 or less attack, and then you draw 2 cards. This allows you to cycle through your deck at a very rapid pace. And then I have my Dragunity Divine Lance. It's an equip card where you can equip only to a Dragunity monster. It gains attack equal to its level times 100. It's also unaffected by trap effects. That's very significant. During your main phase, you can equip 1 Dragon-type Dragunity tuner monster from your deck to the monster equipped with this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, really, my whole game plan is to get Dragunity Knight Ascalon onto the field, hopefully equip it with Dragunity Divine Lance, so that we're sitting at a 4300 attack monster. Very powerful, and it's also immune to traps. So, that's why maybe a good skill to run with this would be a Draw Sense, Spell, and Trap. So you could either draw into your Cards of Consonance or your Dragunity Divine Lance, because the rest of the deck is really just monsters. Like I said, I run my 2 copies of Leviathan, I run my 2 copies of Dragunity Chaos, I run my 3 copies of Senatus, I run my 3 copies of Ducks, I run my 3 copies of Phalanx, and then, honestly, I would love a 3rd copy of Chaos. So in the meantime, I have Ackley's, the other Dragunity tuner, as a replacement. But then I run those 3 copies of Cards of Consonance and those 3 copies of Divine Lance. So very effective to clear your opponent's board. You just keep banishing monsters from your graveyard to banish monsters from their field. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm still recovering from just all kinds of shenanigans from the last few weeks. Got my voice back, so that's a good thing. But effectively, this Dragunity deck is a pretty good casual deck, pretty fun to play. So I highly recommend giving this one a shot if you're doing some of those raid duels. Anyway, that's it for my casual deck of the week. I will see you next time. Take care.
All right, thanks, Doug. And you can check out Doug on this podcast with his deck of the week and his own Twitter page, Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk. So let's actually talk about these raid duels. I think this is the acquisition event. I don't know if it's an acquisition event because I already have them, but it doesn't seem like you can actually get Rex Goodwin. Never mind, it's not an acquisition event. It's just an event to get cards and rewards. Oh wait, never mind. Unlock him by defeating the raid duel with 1500 after March 17th. Okay, so this is an acquisition event for Rex Goodwin if you don't have him. Otherwise, it's a way to get some of the old cards, 2 new cards, and a new duel skill as well. None of these cards are meta, unfortunately. The ones that have been released so far. So the big prize of this event is Dark Salvo or Black Salvo. I'm not really sure what the right name is. It's called Dark Salvo. You are level 3 Machine Tuner, 100 attack, 1100 defense. When this card is normal summoned, you can target a level 4 Dark Machine in your graveyard, special summon that in defense mode. Its effects are negated. So, very simple card. It's pretty much like a limited junk synchron, specifically for level 4 Dark Machines. This guy itself is a level 3 Dark Machine. You're making a level 7 Synchro Summon with this play. It's a tuner too. So basically, you're looking at the list of level 4 Dark Machines. There aren't a lot of them. There's like 30 or 40 of them in the whole TCG. The most meta ones are those machines you run in Master of Destiny Sartorius decks. BM4, Blast Spider, Twin Barrel. Cyberdarks, those Cyberdark Edge, Keel, and Horn, those are all level 4 Darks. Also, Orchest Harp Horror, some Ally of Justice cards, Cannon Soldier, things like that. So not very meta cards, and even if you're playing, a Master of Destiny deck, BM4 Blast Spider, Twin Barrel, those are, they're going to lose their effects. So the whole point of Black Salvo is to give those decks a synchro dimension. Cyber Darks aren't really meta anymore. They were kind of like a fringe deck before. They basically focused on the direct attacks, but now with Black Salvo, they can have that synchro dimension, and level 7 synchro plays are pretty much some of the best cards. I can name a ton of good cards from there. There's Fortune Lady Avery, there's Psyframe Lord Zeta, there's Samurai Destroyer, Black Rose Dragon, Michael. These are all generic synchros too as well. So level 7 synchro plays are great. Black Salvo gives those decks a dimension. Now Orchest Harp Horror also works, but it doesn't it's Black Salvo's anti-synergy with it, because the whole point of Orchest Harp Horror is to get banished from the graveyard. So if you're not in the graveyard, you're not going to be there for the Black Salvo. So there's a little anti-synergy there. So Dark Salvo is basically a synchro play for Sartorius decks and also Cyberdarks. That's basically it for now. Next card is Passion of Baimasi, Counter Trap SR. Activate only if you control a face-up Earthbound Immortal monster. Negate the activation of an opponent's effect monster effect and destroy it. So there's pretty much one of these cards for every single archetype that has support. There's a Counter Trap. If you have one of those monsters on the board, negate and destroy an effect monster. If its effect goes off, that's basically it. And this card, Passion of Baimasi, is actually worse for this archetype than it would be for any other archetype. Why? So the hard part, the reason Earthbound Immortals are not meta is because it takes a while to get the card on the board. You need a field spell, and you need 2 tributes to tribute summon into a monster. And then the monster itself has stipulations. Wirakoka Raska needs you to send cards back to the hand, and then it has an effect where it gains life points and burns an opponent's card off or something. Sometimes you're stuck sending your field spell back to your hand, and then you destroy your own Earthbound Immortal, right? So it sucks. So there's a lot of stipulations into the Earthbound Immortal getting onto the board. This trap card does nothing until that monster's on the board with that field spell. So it's win more, if you think about it. This counter trap's win more. It just gets in the way of those 2 tribute summons. It gets in the way of the field spell. It does nothing before that. Now, a different counter trap, Gladiator Beast War Chariot, that just works when you have a Gladiator Beast on the board. And you could just play one. They're all level 4 and lower, so you could just play the monster, and then your counter trap, your War Chariot, is good to go. This Passion of Baimasi doesn't work until you have all those pieces on the board. So, yeah, this is very win more. Sometimes if you're playing Earthbound Immortals, like I say sometimes, it's never going to happen, but you're going to encounter a monster that wants to banish you or something. Like they play Michael and they want to banish you, then this is when Passion by Mossy is good. But it's just it's not going to work. It just gets in the way. It's worse for this archetype than anything. All right, so Rex Goodwin's duel skill, Ultimate Earthbound Immortal. And this you unlock this by defeating Yusei 3 times, I think. Can be used if you control Earthbound Immortal Wirakoka Raska. During your draw phase, instead of conducting your normal draw, you reduce your opponent's life points to 1 and skip straight to the end phase. So this is it's probably something from the story. I don't really know it, but it kind of reminds me of Winged Dragon of Ra, where they reduce their own life points to 1. It's a very dramatic thing, but you have your monster on the board. He probably already attacked, and reduce your opponent's hand down and stuff like that. You have your field spell on the board. You skip your draw. You turn the life points to 1 and your turn. Now this could be pretty broken for a burn deck, but we are playing speed duels, and losing 4,000 life points is not that hard. It could happen pretty easily against super heavy samurai when they get the ninja out with soul horns and shield wall. You're done. But with this skill, they prevent it from being broken though. Like you could try to build burn decks to help make this skill really good. But there are safeguards. Burning Lands is a card that you could sabotage your opponent, make them burn 500 at their next standby phase. But the thing with Burning Lands is it destroys field spells. So your field spell gets destroyed and you lose your Earthbound Immortal, and then you can't even use the skill, right? So there's safeguards against that. And continuous spells like Skull Invitation, for example, that could get bounced by Wirakoka Raska, so there are things against that. It's possible this is good against decks that can only attack, because the Earthbound Immortals are pretty much a barrier for your life points. They stay on the board, and then they can't get attacked, so you're pretty much safe against those types of decks. Let's say Ancient Gears or something, they just attack. So that's their deal. But even if a deck doesn't have Treacherous Trap Hole, doesn't have something to remove a monster, then they're screwed. This skill is good against those decks. But it seems like there's so much removal nowadays: banish removal, effect destruction removal, to get a Black Rose Dragon out. There's a lot of ways to remove monsters, and this skill only fits in a time when you did everything by battle. So it's not a horrible skill. It gets you to where you want to be to end the duel the next turn, and that's something. But with all the removal there is nowadays, it's hard to win with Earthbound Immortals in general. So that's what it is. 2 remaining cards that will be discussed are cards that are already in the game, but we're getting our third copies, I believe. Second and third copies for some of them, third copy for another. First is from the Tour Guide Bingo, and this is the Howling Insect. Level 3, Earth Insect 1200, 1300. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 insect with 1500 or less attack from the deck. So what it is another insect floater, helps build, future insect decks. Unfortunately, we don't really see these types of cards anymore. These battle destruction floaters. It's better if it's like, if it gets sent to the graveyard by a battle or card effect now, but just getting destroyed by battle isn't good enough nowadays. But it's not a horrible card. Eventually, more insects are going to come to Duel Links, and it may find a use then. Or it's like a specific insect with a really good effect, not really an insect deck, but helps get it onto the board. Then we can think about this card being used, but right now, not particularly useful. And Duelist Challenges Destiny Hero Plasma. We're getting our third copy of this card as well. And Destiny Hero Plasma is it's like a boss monster you would just play to equip to a monster, and then you steal it, sort of, and its effects. But you only ever need one Destiny Hero Plasma, or else it clogs up your hand and whatnot. And to get around us ever having one or two copies of the card, we always played Draw Sense High Level or bring it two skills that could Draw Sense the card, basically. So why would we even need three Destiny Hero Plasmas, right? I guess the only reason you would play this card is if you're trying to play Destiny Hero Plasma and you want to play some other dual skill. So you run extra copies of it to maximize your chances of drawing it, and then you could just throw it away later for a cost. Like you could just run Raigeki breaks and toss the card away, so it's not completely useless. So, but not very useful to get a third copy, but it's just for more creative decks, I guess, that don't feel like running draw sense skills. That is it. Upcoming news. Charlie Carmine's Duel Links Spotlight, new UR Fortune Fairy N, and SR Temperance of Prophecy. So we're going to get her on Tuesdays, a few more days, and we'll get our new legendary duelist, Carly Carmine, 5D's character. So they have fewer rewards to get, basically. I think they're all at level 30. So not as many gems to get from those characters. Also, late March Professional Aster with new URs, D-Mind, and an SR called D-Time. Aster might come the same time as... He might come later in the week. They might stagger the event so that... Or Aster might come on the last day of March as well. So it's possible Aster doesn't come next week. And then the Kaiba Cup, of course. The long-forgotten Kaiba Cup. March 31st starts in 10 days and goes on to April 13th. So that is it for the podcast this week. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. I hope I got you through, whatever's distracting you in the world. I wish there was more content. Duel Links should just ramp it up now. Now's the time to ramp it up, but they're not. But I can't argue with Konami, so that's what it is. It's been 3 years and it's been unsuccessful, so we are where we are, and we'll enjoy what we have, right? So listen, subscribe to this podcast anywhere. Search the Duel Assessment, you'll find this podcast. Check out the podcast. All these notes are on the duelassessment.wordpress.com. Email me, duelassessment@gmail.com. Or you can find me on Twitter, where I'm fairly inactive nowadays. Duel_assessment, my own account at Green Ranger CCG. Alright, everyone, stay safe. Be well, and I will see you next time.